E.N.D here. Glistening oil, also known as Phyrexian oil or ichor, is a viral substance engineered by the Phyrexians to spread corruption whenever it travels. It's both a contagion and a means of colonization, used to complete creatures into Phyrexians and power Phyrexian machine as well. Therefore, it didn't came as a surprise that Phyrexia All Will Be One has a new counter, oil. Oil counters are, as said, a new counter type in Magic. They are counters that can be used in various ways. They have no inherent meaning in the rules, but are flavored to be connected to the glistering oil of the Phyrexians. Some cards put oil counters on themselves and then use the counters for various effects. Other cards care about how many permanents you control with oil counters, and there are other cards that move oil counters around. But how do you play oil counters? Let's build our battlefield and let's put in play Urabrask Forge. Urabrask Forge is the perfect example how the Phyrexians use this deadly oil for their advantage. At the beginning of combat on my turn, I will put an oil counter on it and will create an X1 Phyrexian horror with trample and haste, where X is the number of oil counters on Urabrask Forge. I will sacrifice that token at the beginning of my next end step. Urabrask Forge is a normal artifact spell. It will go on the stack. There can be a counter, there can be a response. Nothing happens and it will hit the battlefield. When it's my combat phase, at the beginning I will put an oil counter on my Urabrask Forge and will create a Phyrexian horror with trample and haste. Because I have only one oil counter, my horror will be just a 1/1 and I will swing. I will need to sacrifice it at the end of my next end step. It's my turn again. At the beginning of my combat phase, again I will put another oil counter on my Urabrask Forge and will create another Phyrexian horror. And this time it will be a 2/1 because I have two oil counters on Urabrask Forge. I will need to sacrifice it at the end of my next end step. I will continue like this, turn 3, turn 4, turn 5, until Urabrask Forge leaves the battlefield or the game ends. A small note, in case of Urabrask Forge, you don't need to attack with your Phyrexian horror. You can have other use for it, but at the beginning of your end step, you will need to sacrifice it if it's still on the battlefield. Some notes, oil counters can mark several uses of ability. They can help you build up, both for scaling and thresholds. They can help you count down, or they can change the size of a creature or the power of an effect. Oil counters are tied to the returning mechanic Proliferate, which lets the players add another of each counter type on any card owned by any player. This is a perfect fit for Phyrexia All Will Be One, as Proliferate can be used to boost a player's own oil counters, as in the case of Archfiend of the Dross, or speed up their effectiveness, as can be seen with cards like Urabrask Forge or Mind Splice Apparatus. So, this is how you play oil counters. Leave me in the comments below what do you think about these new counters. And as always, here's the subscription button. Subscribe for my channel for more and more interesting videos about Magic the Gathering and the collectible world.